Hello everybody, I'm Henry Dekoeyer. I'm going to be presenting Spatial Bitcoin and solving problems with Bitcoin. All right, first of all, who am I? Long time ago, studied computer science. Afterwards, I worked for a bunch of companies doing operations, logistics, that such. Haven't touched computer science in about 10 years. So here I am now currently I own an irrigation company, nothing at all to do with Bitcoin. What is Spatial Bitcoin? It is a project that I'm working on with Anthony Carrick, wherever he is in this room. We are investigating ways to solve problems in the geospatial industry with Bitcoin. Also just general ways to solve problems in industry with Bitcoin. And down the line, finding a way to allow users to own their GPS data and reap the rewards that currently don't exist in that sphere, because there's no way for it possible. It's not possible in the current state. So why geospatial? Geospatial is a huge industry. Last year it was a $420 billion industry, which that is just the people who are working in the geospatial space and all the revenue derived from that. One of the largest problems in the industry is truth and efficiency, both which don't exist and cause for huge losses of money. And Bitcoin happens to incentivize that. It's a system built on truth and efficiency. So in my mind, it's a natural pairing. And also, you can't really read that last one, but it's one of the largest data raping fields existing currently. And by data raping means people collect a lot of data that belongs to somebody and they use it to their advantage, and there's no payouts. Just like Aaron talked about yesterday in Hollywood, what Twitch is trying to do with owning social data, it exists in the geospatial field already. Whenever you use Google Maps, you allow them to access your location, and they use that for a million different reasons. Not just Google traffic, not just showing you advertisements as you go around, but they also study your habits, and they make decisions and sell that to companies, which has huge benefits because most people want to know who passes by a plot of land, how long it took, how long they were there, and ideally y'all should see some benefit instead of companies like Google or Apple making all that cash. A few other things in the geospatial industry that are gigantic problems: advertising fraud, spoofing IP locations to show clicks is a huge problem. And also, just in basic companies, they have inefficiencies that they then pass on to the customer. The main one I've seen there is through my logistics work. It's trucking companies and rideshare and groups like that that don't have great data collection systems in place. And so then they just add on 10, 20% on top of their costs, which doesn't really need to exist, but it's really just to cover their own ass. So that's something that we could solve if we incentivize a more truthful economy. That was all I'm going to talk about geospatial. Instead, I'm planning to talk on how to solve problems with Bitcoin, specifically related to industry. I've been in industry, factory, logistics for about 10 years now, and there are hundreds of problems that can be solved, and it is my firm belief that the way we can make Bitcoin adopted is by going out and solving problems for these companies and just getting them to start using Bitcoin in that sense. This is fairly simple. Most of y'all have done this. A lot of y'all are engineers. You know how to solve a problem, but first, identify a problem area. That requires talking to people. That requires getting your hands dirty, going in and looking at a general field and figuring out what you might be able to solve, where they're losing money, where things could be more efficient, not just for the company, but also for the customer, because in the end run, it's the customers who make the decisions. Then determine if Bitcoin is an efficient solution for that. You don't need to use a blockchain as a database. Don't approach any company saying you can do it that way. Instead, try to figure out if Bitcoin can somehow provide them a utility, a cost savings, or just make their business more efficient. Also, another thing is if you can solve these problems and you can prove to companies it'll save them money, they will implement it for you. You can just show them how Bitcoin can solve it, and they will, if it works for them, they will hire the people, the developers, to get that done. You don't have to do it all yourself. And yeah, last step, make money off that. If you can show companies how to save money, they will pay you. All right, so I'm going to go over an example from my years in the logistics business. I have a few pictures of various pieces of paper. This is an invoice that we'd send out whenever we'd complete a group or a shipment. You see the price right there, order number, service dates. That right there is one thing I want to pay attention to. It's very vague. It's just 3-4 days that we say we're going to get this product shipped from A to B. That doesn't really matter, but down here you can see we included our wiring ACH instructions. We receive payments after sending an invoice out via wire and ACH, which is incredibly inefficient. I will get back to that in a little bit. Here is a bill of lading. This is what drivers have to carry around and stamp, whether it be via a barcode scan or a physical signature at various steps throughout the process. And lastly, this is the legal contract that whoever's goods you're moving gives to the company. Lots of rules and regulations, various things that could trigger a non-payment. But also you can see, this is one thing I want to point out. Please sign this agreement and fax back to this number, and then email invoices to here. Every time we did it, it was some sort of system like that. So the current model, at least in LTL trucking, rate is agreed upon, the contract is signed via whatever manner. Bill of lading is created, bill of lading is signed upon delivery, and payment is set out. So if you look at this, how could Bitcoin help fix this? It can all be done in a couple transactions on the blockchain. You could add more as needed, but one key, payments can be executed immediately. Upon delivery or upon the consumer's agreement that the product arrived in the right shape, a transaction can be sent out that carries the payment. The contracts can be signed over the blockchain, and both parties can know that they are accepting a signature from who they think they're working with. Both this eliminates man hours. You don't need a secretary to fax in and out documents. You don't need to have a team to search through for any discrepancies or anything that might cause a loss of payment. And that right there is a huge thing. You can eliminate a couple of jobs just by using contracts on Bitcoin. Another huge thing is Bitcoin provides clear timestamping. Whenever these contracts go out, it has a timestamp on it. On the invoice, it showed our service period. That should be various transactions with an exact timestamp. So we know the exact time that we got a product from A to B. That allows for a couple things. First of all, for our own records, we know how efficient we are. Also, when we're selling our future business, people can see exactly how efficient we are, which right now we have single-day shipping for a lot of things we buy. Even that's still fairly vague. We don't see the process, and if you go above the home consumer and you go into the companies that need goods today, it's basically a market where they say we can get it done in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, but there's nothing to back that up. There's no way to prove that. So if you're using the company for a first time, they might get it to you in 2 days. If you say, oh, cool, that's what they said, use it for a second time, they get to you in 5 days, well, you just lost 3 days of your company's time. If your entire factory is shut down because of a part, that's incredibly inefficient. So if you had clear timestamping and transparency to the customer has a better availability or a better way to make a choice for all the companies available to him or her. I'm already here at the conclusion. That was fairly quick. But basically, I think Bitcoin adoption can be driven by solving current problems in industry. Again, there are thousands of them. We don't need to reinvent the wheel or create problems out of thin air to get Bitcoin adopted. There's already plenty of things we can do. We just have to go out there, find them, present, and start taking advantage of that. That's another thing. Take advantage of Bitcoin and the full potential. Bitcoin really allows for transfer of information in any type of form, whether it be money, contracts, signatures, data storage, and that is something that, when bundled all together, can create savings for companies, create more efficient processes between the company and the consumer, and it can help businesses grow, advance, and really take it to a new type of market where you can have consumers look directly at a company and say, I can see their proof of work here, so I'm going to choose them. Or I can see why I don't want to choose this company due to errors and whatnot. And also, Ari had mentioned this yesterday, everything's legal. I got litigated to hell in my last trucking company. If we had clear timestamp backed up information showing where we failed the contracts, it wouldn't have happened. And so maybe next time, or maybe I can help some other company. So there we go.